So we're on our way to Trafalgar Square for the solidarity demonstration with Palestine Action, who have been targeted with proscription by the British government. Yvette Cooper, who is Home Secretary and also a member of Labour Friends of Israel, will soon submit a draft proscription order to Parliament. So if the law passes, it means Palestine Action will soon become a designated terrorist organisation, which means that being a member of it, or even voicing support for it, could carry a prison sentence of up to 14 years. This is the first time that the UK government has moved to proscribe an activist organisation using the Terrorism Act of 2000, having huge implications for the future of protests and freedom of speech in Britain. So let's find out what's going on at the demonstration and see how members of the public have reacted to this recent news.
We are Palestine Action! We are Palestine Action! We are!
What implications do you think this prescription or this designation could have against Palestine Action?
It's unprecedented. There's never been use of terrorism legislation to go after activist groups. And it's a sign of weakness for the government. It's a show of strength but a sign of weakness because they've lost control of the narrative. They've lost control of the population. And when the ruling class, when the British establishment loses control of the narrative and the population, they have to revert to the law to discipline the population. The important point is it won't end with Palestine Action. Governments, states don't work like that. They don't give themselves new tools to crack down on dissent and then go back home and forget about it. They use those tools to go after more and more people. And we've already seen unprecedented attacks on journalists, their homes raided, people arrested at airports just for being pro-Palestinian. So I think this is the sign. The repression will grow in the short term, but in a sense, they're going to lose because Palestine Action is an organisation, but it's also an idea. Now, what is that idea? That idea is that if your government is participating in genocide, you don't sit idly by. You do what you can to try and stop your government's complicity, your government's participation. That's what Palestine Action is. You can't kill that idea. That's deep in our DNA. As human beings, we show solidarity with people who are being attacked and blown up with our bombs and with our intelligence.
United will never be defeated. The people united will never.
We're in a critical time now. They've announced that they're going to move towards prescription, but the process for prescription is the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has to recommend it and it has to go through Parliament. I think there can also be legal challenges, and that's why it's so important that people speak up now. If they see that the mainstream is against this, they might be pushed back into their box. And actually very important was Sally Rooney, who's a world famous novelist, yesterday published a story in The Guardian saying, I wholeheartedly support Palestine Action and I will continue doing that even if it becomes a terrorism offence. So they're going to put Sally Rooney in prison.
We need people like Palestinian Action because a lot of people are just too scared to speak out and too scared to sacrifice things in their daily lives, and what they're fighting for is really important, and it's for the protection of humanity. My parents protested back in the 80s and 90s. People did acts of civil disobedience on a regular basis, and no one has ever been charged with terrorism. And this threat to put Palestine Action in a group that's associated with other terrorist groups is so awful. It is so awful for democracy. It's totally disproportionate.
As someone who cares about this, as you say, you've been watching all these videos, seen horrific things coming out of Gaza, right? Presumably this is the first protest that you've been on.
No.
Do you think that you've been listened to as a member of the public?
I feel so depressed by it all. I feel like we're not being listened to by anyone, and we're being more and more silent. That's why we're shouting out. It's because we're not being listened to, because no one is giving us a voice, and therefore we have to take things into our own hands because no one is speaking for us. And I think people that have been watching what's happened in Palestine and watching the thousands and thousands of people being killed on a daily basis is just so disappointed that a Labour government can then turn around and threaten people with being part of a terrorist group. It really, really actually breaks my heart that we can do that.
Palestine Action!
What do you know about Palestine Action? How important is their activism been to you over the last couple
Well, I think very important. I think that obviously direct action has a noble history. You can cite the freedom rides in south of the United States, the suffragettes. One of the reasons they want to ban us, I suppose, is because it's effective. Public opinion, British public opinion, is overwhelmingly in favour of Palestine and detachment from the state of Israel. The British government, unfortunately, does not work for the British public. They work for the arms industry, the Israel lobby, government of the United States, the security services. They don't work for us, but we need to make them. This has embarrassed them, and this has a kind of fit of pique that they're lashing out, partly because it works. Direct action works. It's always worked.
How has it made you feel seeing this attempted proscription in the media recently?
I think for a start, Keir Starmer should be ashamed of himself. He has not stood up for Gaza in any way.
I suppose what the media might want to do is present the Palestine Action members, Palestine Action supporters as radicals, as far extreme.
They were ordinary
radicals.
people.
Who are they really?
They're just ordinary people. Can't say more than that. I mean, if I've got it wrong, which I very much doubt I have, that's what I feel. I think people who've got a heart know what damage is being done, not only to Gaza, but to the whole world.
How do you feel about the trajectory of things in this country? Does it make you worried?
It's frightening. It's really frightening. I feel like I'm pretty middle of the road with most things, and I feel like people have a right to protest. I feel sometimes people do things that push the boundaries of the law, and when things like that happen, there's due process and people are taken to court. And this is completely disproportionate. This is a peaceful demonstration. It has an element of activism, but it is totally disproportionate to put someone in a category of terrorism. It means that people won't be able to speak out. People will be frightened about speaking out, and it makes me really sad.
What have you noticed happening, especially behaviour with the police?
Yeah, well, the protesters have been in a good mood, chanting, and there's been speeches, but the police, their blood is up for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they've had orders to go in and arrest people and duff people up, but I haven't seen a protest like this from a long time, personally. And it goes to show it's part of the whole thing. They're trying to scare people into stopping supporting Palestine, to stopping supporting actions that are going to stop the genocide. I did see an elderly Jewish man get pushed to the floor by a police officer, and countless other people just getting grabbed from within the protesters and moved to a police van. So it's disgusting. But it goes back to the tweet that came out yesterday from the Met Police, where the commissioner said he was shocked that people were going to come out to demonstrate in support of Palestine Action. Now that's a highly irregular thing for a commissioner to do. It shows that it's a highly politicised police force. They're highly politicised. They're influenced by the Israel lobby, as we know in the Palestine Action case. We need to understand that the police are not doing their job on this issue. They're not doing their job on Palestine Action, and the government's not doing its job with prescribing under the Terrorism Act. Now, the Terrorism Act, in theory, is meant to protect us against terrorism. What is prescribing Palestine Action have never hurt a human being in their lives doing to protect us? Nothing. What it's about is protecting the British establishment to continue facilitating and supporting a genocide, and that's why it's so disgusting. That's why it's like a scene out of 1984 by George Orwell. The people who are committing a genocide, participating in a genocide, criminalising the people who are trying to stop it as terrorists. It's horrific.